Path of Exile 3.12 is Heist League, where we're going to be infiltrating enemy bases and trying to get some fat loot, including a ton of currency, interesting new uniques, as well as some changed uniques that we've known for many years. And what better way to start off the league but with what is probably going to be my actual league starter, a build that has insane clear, tons of defenses, some pretty respectable single target with the updates that I've made to it, as well as being able to do all of that on absolutely no gear whatsoever. This is Creeping Frost. Hey guys, Big Ducks here, and welcome back to the channel. Now, Creeping Frost is most likely going to be the ability that I league start with. However, for you probably need a little bit more convincing, and that's what I'm here to do. Now, Creeping Frost is an ability that can do every single bit of content in the game with no budget. Now, it might have a little bit of difficulty on some of the very high-end bosses, but they are still possible. And if you push this build, you can get upwards of 3 or 4 million DPS on just the Creeping Frost. That's not including all of the other additional abilities that go into this. However, with almost no gear whatsoever, 2 million DPS on Creeping Frost, 1 million DPS on the alternate abilities. That's pretty insane. So remember guys, if you enjoy my content, make sure to like this video so that more people can see it. And also consider subscribing to the YouTube channel for more content similar to this. And without further ado, let's take a look at a little bit of the leveling footage that I've got, as well as some of the things that we accomplished, and then we'll get into the guide. Like, I look at this game very differently than you guys do, I would think. The majority of the people on Reddit that are upset about things constantly, I bet most of them don't even play the game anymore. I bet you they play for like a couple of days and then they just quit every league. And then they just go on Reddit and they complain about it the entire time. The cool thing about all of my starters is that they don't need Spellslinger. Spellslinger works and you can use them for leveling, but they're perfectly fine without it, right? Like, they completely work, no problem without it, so I'm not worried at all. Yeah, the elemental equilibrium definitely seems to help for these big bosses like this. Like, he's dying pretty quickly. You just have to change the playstyle up a little bit. Like, when you're fighting the boss, you can't just spam the Creeping Frost, yeah? You kind of just have to toss it down and then stop. I don't even know what the last one left is. Okay. Yeah, that wasn't too bad. Not too bad. Ooh, we got the jewel. This is actually gonna be pretty annoying. This is Ellie resist. It's 48% Ellie resist, so you guys are gonna take a while to die, most likely. Like, the thing about it is that the fight is still really easy, because I mean, look at how slow he is, right? Like, he's so slow. I actually took that to the face. Yeah, the fight is still, like, very safe, right? Like, you're never really gonna take very many hits because, you know, he's so slow. Oh, don't you just love the vertigo that happens in this little section here? Feels great, man. Also, I like how fucking Veritani is literally just, like, floating there, right? Like, all of the Conquerors do that just the whole entire time that her fucking stand is fighting for her. It looks so strange, dude. Like, look, it looks so strange. Why do they do that? Just like, just die already. Come on, you got like 0.25% of a health, dude. Reminds you of the Sky Tower to get Rayquaza in Pokemon? Yeah, sorta. Oh man, got an imbued wand. Alright guys, so I just want to remind you that this build will be updated consistently as we get more information for Heist League, so make sure to go down back into the description and check out the Pastebin and make sure that you've got the most updated version. As we get patch notes, as we get more information about nerfs or anything like that, I don't think this build has much chance of being nerfed if I'm being honest, but if it does, in the rare case that it does, I will be updating everything below. You'll have the most up-to-date stuff as soon as I can get it to you, so look out for that. Now, Creeping Frost is an ability that I wasn't really sure about at first, you know? You just kind of cast it out here, it moves around on the ground, it's got a couple little cool mechanics like that. But as I've played it more and more, I've started to like this ability quite a bit more. Now, one thing that has changed since I played this previously is I was playing this with GMP before. But, however, once you obtain the Dying Sun Flask, I actually don't think GMP is that necessary. I'm honestly even kind of considering taking out the Snake Pit, but the Snake Pit is really good for clear, and it doesn't really need much more help anyways. So what we're going to do first is we're going to check out a map. This is a tier 16 Toxic Sewers. We are on Awakener 8 with basically the most hard mods that you can get in the game. It also does have Beyond on it, so we'll get a little bit of interesting stuff going on here. So we're going to do this tier 16 map. Let's take a look just so you can get an idea of the gameplay. I want to show you that my gear is absolutely not that great, right? I'm running a Tabula. I have a Curse on Hit Ring. This is probably the best piece of gear that this build has, is just this Curse on Hit Ring. I've got a Rhyme Gaze, which is almost nothing. anything. This is just a block shield with some energy shield and chaos resist, a trigger wand with +1 to level of all cold skill gems and some cold damage, and then just a bunch of rares, right? So between this right here and I guess my flask, which honestly doesn't even do that much for me at this point, that's about all the gear that I've got. Now this build in particular is very, very good at clearing. Now one thing that you're gonna notice is that I have quite a few projectiles going out, and because of the Dying Sun Flask, I actually don't need GMP whatsoever, right? So just with Creeping Frost, this is a tier 16, right? Just with Creeping Frost, not even using my additional abilities. This is clearing absolutely like a breeze. I have had no issues with this build. This is one of the strongest builds that I've played for League Start in quite some time, actually, with the amount of gear that this build has. And with some changes that I've made recently, we're actually utilizing Elemental Equilibrium now. Now you can kind of see that we're just kind of going in and getting frisky. I mean, okay, so here's Host. We'll use some extra single target. But, I mean, leather belt, no headhunter today, boys. But you can kind of see the build does some pretty good damage nowadays. As I've changed the ability to use Stormbind in, or rather not Stormbind, not that horrible ability, Stormbrand to be in our trigger wand, which even if the trigger wand gets nerfed, I'll update the path of building and don't worry about that. I've heard some ruminations that the trigger wand might get some changes, but even without that, we're using Elemental Equilibrium with Stormbrand. That means that on our clear is actually nerfed by about 25%. So this does help us with 50% more damage on our single target, however, which is pretty much the only thing that this build needs. Clear has never been a problem for this build. After I jumped to the Snake Pit Ring, the clear became a breeze. I'm not even using GMP anymore, so we're doing the full 6-link, just single target damage link now. I mean, there's not really much to say about this build. It's been one of my favorites for quite some time. I've added an Enduring Cry into the build now to help even more with survivability. And one cool thing that you'll have to look forward to in the path of building is the fact that I have included a full life version of this build. This is going to be a version that you can transition into with some more gear, and it's going to make you way tankier. All right, let's take a look at the boss. We'll pop all of our abilities. We'll hit some damage on the boss here. And it's not bad. I'm not going to lie. This is doing a lot better damage than it was before. Remember, this is a Awakener 8 tier 16 boss. And that boss died pretty quick. It didn't have almost any issue whatsoever. And also keep in mind, this is with no good gear, right? I don't have cold damage multiplier on my gloves. I don't have it on any of my other pieces of gear. I've got that on this like one chaos helmet. I don't have that great of a wand. It's just +1 to level of cold gems. My cluster jewels, I'm only using one at the moment because I couldn't find my other one when I was putting this character back together. I'm level 90, I don't have great gear. You could easily double the damage of this build if you spent a little bit of time actually gearing it properly. With pretty much no items whatsoever besides the tabula, and like I said, this ring, we are clearing tier 16 maps with no issue whatsoever. Now I just want to give you a quick note on bossing before we go into the leveling information about this build. Now when you're actually bossing with this character, one thing to keep in mind is that if you are using the Snake Pit Ring, you need to make sure that you're putting the Creeping Frost on the ground and not hitting the enemy with it. Because if you hit the enemy with it, it's going to fork in two directions. You're not actually going to get that thing on the ground. Other thing to think about is this is an excellent bossing build in the sense that all of your abilities are going to massively slow bosses, meaning that they're going to move slower, attack slower, and cast slower. If you're a player that needs to learn how to maybe do some bosses, or you want to be able to do bosses for the first time, or say that Heist League has some cool new bosses that you need a little bit more help in learning, this build is going to be great for that. Now, let's get into some of the leveling information about this build. I want to show you guys what abilities that we level up with, how we use them when we get them, and things like that. So starting off, after you kill Hillock and you get into town, you're going to get Freezing Pulse. Now, Freezing Pulse is a fine ability. You can actually use this for quite some time. You do get Creeping Frost at level 12, but you can use Freezing Pulse all the way up till then. If you really don't like Creeping Frost, you can continue using Freezing Pulse for a while, but I do suggest that you get used to Creeping Frost early. The next ability that you're going to get that you're going to want to keep is Frost Bomb. Now you can use this just to clear. This ability is actually quite good. So I have mine in a trigger wand right now. You can manually cast this or you can link it to Spellslinger, which I'll talk about more in a minute. This just gives us some cold exposure as well as stops enemies from regenerating. Now at level 10, you're also going to get access to your movement skills, which is Flame Dash and Smoke Mine. Flame Dash is the main movement skill that I use for most casting builds. It's kind of just the best. You can also use Smoke Mine if you know how to do the Flame Dash Smoke Mine jump. It's a little bit more difficult, but don't worry too much about it if you can't do it. And also Clarity. Clarity is going to help you out with your mana regen early on before you get a flask to help you with that or anything else. Now, when you do hit level 12, you're going to get Creeping Frost, and Creeping Frost is the mainstay of this build. You can use it from level 12 all the way to the end of the game. Clear all the content with it, you don't have to worry about a thing. Now at level 12, you're also going to get Stormbrand. Now you're not going to use this early on in the game and you don't need to level it up, but I would grab it and just put it off to the side for a little bit because you will use it for Elemental Equilibrium in the endgame. Elemental Equilibrium being the thing that says whenever you hit enemies with elemental damage, they get resistance to that damage but lose resistance to the other damages. So the idea with that is that with Elemental Equilibrium going and we have this Stormbrand in our trigger wand, Stormbrand is going to attach to the boss and it's going to pulse damage every 0.5 seconds. Now Creeping Frost actually lasts on the ground for quite some time and only hits when you cast it. The idea is that Stormbrand is going to be constantly proccing every half second, and it's going to be replacing the cold hit that Creeping Frost and all the other abilities would do, thus giving you a ton more damage. You're going to be getting 50% enemy resistance penetration with this. It's really solid. This was a good addition to the build. Increased the single target damage by quite a bit, and as you saw, the clear had no problem whatsoever. Cold Snap is the alternate damage ability that you're going to get here. This is the main way that you're going to supplement your damage with Bone Chill. So Cold Snap is linked to Bone Chill, and what this does is it means that increased effective chill, which means that enemies are going to move slower, increases the damage taken by the enemy, right? When you chill enemies, it always takes the most chill effect that it can possibly get, right? So if you put Creeping Frost on them, you put Cold Snap on them, you put Frost Bomb on them, and all three hit, because we have Hypothermia, which is increasing the effect of chill, Bone Chill, which is increasing the effect of chill, and then Cold Snap, all of that chill effectiveness together is going to give you like 120% increased effectiveness of chill, and Bone Chill is going to make them take all of that cold damage as increased damage. So the 1-2 punch is really, really strong for bosses, but you don't even need it for clearing. Beyond that, we're also going to get Summon Skitterbots. This is an aura that you can use while leveling. It's just the suggested aura. You can use whatever you like. You can use Malevolence as soon as you get it, but Skitterbots is going to cause you to do a little bit better damage while you're leveling because of the chill and because of the shock, and it only requires 35% of your mana, meaning you can use more mana for clarity if you're not running the Spellslinger version. Now, if you are going to be running the Spellslinger version, I want to make sure that you know the Spellslinger does not work well into high tier maps. It'll function and it'll kind of work, but it's really going to fall off hard. I suggest that you swap over to the normal version of Creeping Frost and maybe slot in a GMP for your clear as soon as you get to maps. It really is going to be a lot better with the GMP. If you are running the Spellslinger version while leveling, the way that I suggest that you do it is you grab a Frenzy. This is going to allow you to generate Frenzy charges while you're using Spellslinger, and then you're going to get Spellslinger at 24. Now what Spellslinger does is it's going to allow you to reserve spells, and every time that you attack with your wand, it's going to cast all of those spells. So the idea is that you get 3 Spellslingers. One is going to be for Creeping Frost and a 4-link, the second one is going to be for Cold Snap and a 4-link, and then the third one is going to be a 2-link with Frost Bomb. Those 3 things together will allow you to spam all the way through the game, and the cool thing is that you know how Cold Snap has a cooldown on it, but you can use a Frenzy Charge to override it? Well, guess what? Your attack procs Frenzy Charges, so you should be able to spam Cold Snap, no problem whatsoever. Now, let's talk a little bit about actually leveling the build and what you should look for early on. Now, as soon as you get into town, the big thing to look at is that if you are going to be leveling it as a Spellslinger, a wand is going to be the best idea for you. Now with a Spellslinger, especially with something that does damage over time, you're going to be wanting a fast wand. Now you're going to want to grab a carved one. You can see that I have one right here. These are pretty cheap. You should be able to get it for like a Wisdom Scroll or something early on. And the coolest thing about these carved wands is that the very, very low item level wands are actually really easy to roll good modifiers on. Now, I'm not saying that you should spend a bunch of like alterations to roll these very early, but if you want to toss a couple in there, you might get something good. Like in 2 or 3, we got Chaos Damage over Time Multiplier, we got +1 to level of all Lightning Spell Gems. I mean, it's very easy to roll some good stuff here. Fire Damage over Time Multiplier, so it's possible to get like Cold Damage over Time Multiplier, +1 to level of certain stuff. It's not too hard to actually get it. Now I'm going to run this a couple times because I want to see if I can actually get, there we go, Cold Damage over Time Multiplier. That was like 10 or 15, right? So this wand would serve you all the way through the game. Like, no joke. You could take this, you could augment it if you got an augment, okay, it's trash. You could regal it if you got something, and then you could just craft cold damage on this wand, and this wand would take you all the way through the game. Literally, you could probably finish the game with this if you really wanted to. No joke. You would just craft trigger socketed spells on it later, and this would legit carry you through the game. So that easy. Now, beyond that, you should also make sure that you are looking in these vendors for 3 links and 4 links. You really do want to be focusing on that. Early on, you need to make sure that you try to get a 3 link or a 4 link in your helmet, in your chest, and in your gloves. Your boots, you should really be looking for movement speed boots. Now, I don't have any here. They are a little bit rare, but you can type in into here for runner's boots if you're trying to look for them very early on. But movement speed is super important in your boots. The best thing that you can do if you want to level faster in this game, say it's League Start right now, that's why you're watching the video, right? And you want to get through the game and you want to get to endgame real fast, so you can start farming those heists, you can start doing the blueprints and all that kind of other crazy stuff that we're going to get. The best thing that you can do to make yourself level faster is to move faster. Any time that's spent not running through the game trying to get to the end game is time wasted, in my opinion. So if you want to get there faster, you got to move faster. Now, you should be looking for those sockets. You should be looking for mainly blue sockets, okay? That means energy shield gear. Now, you can buy a tabula early on if you get lucky and you get some good drops, or you find one, even better yet. So just make sure to manage your mana a little bit if you're reserving everything from Spell Slinger. You'll get Spell Slinger in Act 3. That's pretty much it to the leveling section. Just make sure that you get those 4 links. Check those vendors every time you level up. The vendor items reset every time that you level, so that's definitely something to look for. Now, I want to remind you, we are going to move into the path of building here. The information that you're going to see in the path of building may not be up to date with what I have in the description. Go check the description if you're worried about the path of building not being up to date. I'm just going to give you a couple brief overviews, and you're really going to need to go and download Path of Building. It's in the description. So now that we're over here in the path of building, there's only a couple things that I want to show you. Mainly up here in the notes, there is going to be a bunch of information. I've been trying to get better about this. I've got everything from a FAQ, if you've got some questions, some leveling information, stuff about gearing up, playing the build, all kinds of stuff. This will get updated over time. I also do have multiple leveling trees, okay? There is a leveling tree for your first ascendancy, second ascendancy, third ascendancy, endgame, the level 100 full tree, and I actually do have a full life version of this build, as well as item sets. My items, these are items that I cleared the game with. There are these goal items, which are super expensive, and then there's also this life version that I was talking about. I do have an alternate life version. It uses Glorious Vanity. It does not use Agnostic. This is converted into Divine Flesh. You can find the information about that here. This gives it 6,000 life plus 85 Chaos Resistance and all the cool stuff about Divine Flesh. This is a really, really tanky version of the build. I want you to know you don't need to do this one. This is a little bit more expensive. The items are going to be a little bit more expensive, and you really don't need it. Just the normal version of the build is doing 1.8 million DPS with just Creeping Frost, and then also beyond that, the Vault Cold Snap is doing 732,000 DPS. So between those, you're doing almost 3 million DPS. And that's with pretty bad gear. Like I said, the items that I have are just some random stuff that I've put together. It's nothing crazy, right? And these medium cluster jewels, these might be a little expensive early on, but you really don't need them. The main thing that you're looking for is you're just looking to get some damage over time. If you can't get these cluster jewels, just put more points into defenses or put more points into some damage. There's a couple different things that you can get on the tree. You could get some energy shield nodes here. You could get more energy shield nodes here. You could grab this cold damage. There's a bunch of stuff that you could do. More AoE if you wanted AoE here and AoE here. So that's pretty much going to be it for Path of Building. Go download it. It's in the description down below. It's free. When you actually load in the Path of Building, all that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to load up the program, hit New. You're going to click Import up here, and then you're going to hit Import from Pastebin, paste that Pastebin link into here, and it'll load up this full guide with all that information that I was showing you. All right, guys, so that's going to be it. This is one of the better League starters that I have for you. I think that this one's going to be pretty solid. I'm going to be doing it myself. If you have questions or concerns, make sure that you read the notes. Make sure that you go down in the comments and check to see if there's anybody else that can help you with that. Let me know if you like the build, if it's something that you've played earlier on in Harvest League, and if you're going to play it for 3.12. And last but not least, if there are questions that you don't have answered, that you just can't figure out, join my Discord. It is linked down in the description. It's where myself and all of my mods and all of the community hang out. There's a question section there that'll be able to help you. People are all over the place helping people in there. It's getting pretty big. We've got over 1,000 members over on Discord. I would love for you guys to join and come hang out with us. So that's going to be it, guys. Remember, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like it so other people can see it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content similar to this, and stay safe out there in raid class. And I'll see you guys in 3.12 Heist League.